Welcome to India Microsoft BizApps Bootcamp 2022. Um, how are you right now?
I am fine. It's a great pleasure to be with you today. Have a good day for everyone. Thank you also give me the opportunity to be here.
Thank you, Fatih, for being part of this bootcamp, actually. And I can see that, Fatih, you're there from start of this bootcamp itself, and you're waiting eagerly to even present your session. Just to give some background, Fatih will be providing us with tips and tricks on X++ development uh, to our Dynamics FNO developers, especially. With this, I will not waste much time and handing over to you, Fatih. The stage is yours.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Start. Okay, it's ready. There is a problem in my sound or screen. Everything's okay.
Everything is good, Fatih.
Okay. Again, welcome and thank you for the opportunity. I will cover X++ tips and tricks today. I prepare lots of tricks and tips, but I need to delete some of them because of the timing. But if you have any further question, I will try to answer on my social media or my email or my YouTube channel. You can access all these environments from me. Here's my information. I'm a computer engineer. I am working as a solution architect in DMR. Also, I am one of the co-founder of DMR. I am 2 years MVP and almost 12 years MCT. I have lots of training experience, especially in X++. I have a blog and YouTube channel. Also, I'm trying to create content for these both medias, and that's all. You can reach me from all these areas, and if you have further question or further requirement, I will try to explain or I will try to share docs or related documents, etc. Today, as I said, I will cover some basic topics with X++, related X++. I will start with Visual Studio, of course, our new development environment. Then I will jump into two language-specific tips and tricks. Let's start. First of all, I will talk about Visual Studio. As I said, these are the Visual Studio topics, and I will talk about Turdux DevTool, double-click extension, VS4 extension, debug code snips, and metadata search. And I will show you some of the shortcuts. I know probably most of you know this, but I just want to summarize one of important and good shortcuts. Let's start. First of all, I like these dev tools. There are lots of dev tools right now, but these are one of the most advanced one. You can create tables, enums, all etc. You can download from GitHub, and you can set up in your development environment. Also, this is not for just development. It also creates some user interface functionalities. I will not cover this functionality here, but I strongly advise you to install this dev tool and get in details about this. This is the main add-ins, and you can create table, run-base class, enum, or data contract class from directly Dynamics 365 menu. If you open a table, you can see another add-ins here. You can create fields or form or create extension class for this table. It's very useful tool. I am using my daily development jobs in daily development jobs, and it helps a lot. I strongly suggest you to try this one. Let's jump into another extension. These are Visual Studio extensions. Double click maximize. I like this one because let me show you in my screen. Sometimes when I work with Visual Studio, there are lots of codes I need to read, and it's not fit the screen if my screen is small, etc. You can click like this and like this. It's a very useful small tool. You can easily install, and it's free. Also, we have, let me slide. Also, VSphere is a coloring extension. It colors your branches, etc. It makes your code very readable. So I'm also suggesting to use this extension in Visual Studio. Okay, one of the important things in debugging is attached process. You can attach to your IIS Express exe to debug your normal code. Also, you can debug your batch jobs again attached with attached process. It's a very good debugging tool, and you can attach your processes and then run the project or code, and then if it hits the breakpoint, you can debug your code. So use this one. Also in Visual Studio, you can create code snippets. I had a project in 2012 or older version. I was creating a code snip for Morphix IDE. But in Visual Studio, you can create your own code snippets, and you can use in your code. There are standard code snip for X++. When you choose code snip management form, then when you drop down your language lookup, here is the X++, and for these snips are standard X++ snips. You can use these ones. Also, you can create new ones. It's easy to create if you have daily codes for this kind of codes. You can create your own snips and you can use. Also, I think one of the most strongest objects Visual Studio was metadata search. Before this one, it's very hard to find something. You need to do lots of coding or etc. But in Visual Studio, we have metadata search, and if you want to find a certain property or code or type, etc., you can easily find. For example, in this search, I just search a query type union. I want to find this property set to union objects, and here is my result. So if you want to search your code base something, you can use metadata search. There are lots of easy way to find proper codes, and I'm always saying the best way to learn is read the standard codes. There are lots of examples in standard codes. You know, there are lots of tables, forms, classes, etc. Thousands of them. So when you read the standard code, you can see lots of different usages of X++, and you can learn lots of things from there. So these are good tools to search and widen your knowledge. These are the shortcuts. So when you know, in Visual Studio, there are lots of tabs, and when you trying to navigate from them, it's a little bit hard. So you can use CRT tab or CRT F6 or Shift F6 to manage these ones. It's very useful. Also, if you want to delete a certain line or duplicate the certain line, you can use CRT X or CRT D. Or if you want to see special path, you can use Shift V, and it's creates a lookup for you, and you can use the old passable codes. It's very easy and helpful to use. Also, we have bookmarks. In X++ we have to-dos, but Visual Studio has a bookmark, and you can create a bookmark like this one. And when you look at your bookmark form from here, you can see the bookmarks. So you can use to-do again, but bookmarks also very useful. I want to share this with you. Okay, these are my Visual Studio tips. I'm starting to give some property tips right now. When you create a custom lookup, it will not automatically create a validation. So you need to write a validation. If you need a validation, you need to write a new validation for this one. But there is a property called lookup only. When you check the yes, then the end user can't write anything in this section. It must be choose from lookup. So you don't need to write a validation from this one. But of course, sometimes end user wants to write, so it's not always a proper solution. But if the end user doesn't want to write, just want to select from lookup, then you can select this property, lookup only property. Then end user can't write something, so you don't need to write an extra validation to this field. Okay, I am jumping another one. This is the property I liked most, one of the most one, because we are doing lots of data updates after clicking some buttons, etc. And we need to refresh our grid most of the time. With this auto refresh data property, if you have a button and if this button makes changes in the certain record, you don't need to call execute query or reread, refresh, research, etc. You can click auto refresh data yes. Then this button is actually calling research through method. Then your record is refreshed and the end user see the refreshed data. So it's very helpful property. Let me. Okay. Clear Dynalink is the data source method actually. Most of the time, especially juniors forget these things and struggle a lot. In X++, when you create table relation and when you create a two form from these relational tables, forms automatically creates a link between these forms. Then when you clicked, for example, authors for the book, automatically filters the books for the related author. But sometimes you don't want to filter these records because these forms works differently, and maybe you don't know the relation, these tables, etc. So if you click one form to another, click a button and open another form, be aware they will, if the two main data source has a relation, it will create automatically a dynamic link. And if you don't want to create this link, you need to clear these links. It's easy to do. Overwrite init methods of your form and write some code like this. This is the data source, this book table data source, and it has a clear dynalink method. With this, automatically clears all the dynalinks and it will show all the data you want. So be aware if two table has relation and you create a two form for these two tables and create a button to open another form, it will create automatically a link. If you don't want this link, this filter, you need to clear this one. And okay. I will just talk about this one. X++ has set-based operations and record-based operations. With set-based operation is more faster because it will create one SQL transaction. So whenever you have to use a database transaction, be aware it's more suitable and more performance with set-based operation. If you have other requirements, you need to do something record by record. Of course, you can use record by record functionality, but if it is not, you can use set-based operations. We have delete from, update record set, insert record set options. You can use all of these to your database jobs. Yeah, this is the new functionality. You know, we have the old style selects and query framework. Now we have also SysData access API. This is a new data access structure. It's again an object-oriented select structure. You can create this and use this one. It's one of it's extensible. Also, it has support set-based operation, so it's very useful to use. Microsoft Learn create a blog post about this one. Also, I am trying to create new posts. You can follow these and learn more detail about how to write query with SysDA. Okay. Sales operation is a batch framework. You know, we have run-based batch framework. Also, we have sales operation framework. In this section, I will not cover all the detail of this one, but I will just talk you about multi-process functionality. If you have a long-running job, you can create multi-processor sales operation jobs. And with this, your long running jobs can reduce the running time. It's a very useful tool. Again, if you have a long running job, you can use multi-process functionality of sales operation. Okay. Temp table. Okay. This one, I know everyone knows about temp table, but sometimes I see lots of confusion about this, especially in memory temp tables. In this example, I am using cast table as a temp table with saying cast table set TMP. This means I am creating a temp structure with a regular table. Then I am pointing two table together. I am pointing cast table TMP to cast table TMP. Then I'm creating new data in cast table TMP, and I am selecting these two ones. I am actually didn't insert any record to cast table TMP2, but because I pointed this one to this one, it will automatically shows the same data. So if I delete some record from cast table TMP, it will automatically delete this one too, because these two variables actually show the same data. So if you want two different temp table, you need to insert two different temp buffer. You will not use this kind of appointment, because it will automatically point the same data structure, so you will get a wrong data. So be careful when you use temp table and multiple temp table buffer. It's sometimes can be confusing. I'm suggesting to use always a different one. Don't appoint one table temp table buffer to another. Okay. Okay. As a X++ developer, we usually need to deal with ledger dimensions structure. With ledger dimension, there are lots of details. I know it sometimes can be confusing, but there are lots of helpful classes. So I just want to show you ledger dimension account helper and ledger dimension facade and ledger default account helper classes. These are the classes you can use your daily coding because it will automatically gives you lots of convertible methods. For example, in this one, I can create a dynamic account for example, this account name, and it's a cost account. It will create automatically a dynamic account for me. Also, this will create a default account from main account, or this one also default account from main account ID. This is a little bit different. Also, you can find from default account from ledger dimension, this method. So these are the helpful classes you can use in your daily coding. Also, if you need a functionality to filter certain dimension in your query, you can use attribute range to query functionality in your queries. These are in this section. For example, I am filtering cost table default dimensions business unit with this value. So if you have a query and you need to filter your default dimension, you can use attribute range to query functionality. Okay. And this is args color. When you have two forms or two objects, you know X++ automatically transfers argument class one object to another. When you want to access color form, you can use element.args and color method. With color, it will automatically return an object for you. In this example, this is the first form, this is the second form. In second form, I am accessing the first form's par method. For example, I just want to access item ID field value str from colors parm item ID method. So if you want to access your second form to first form, you can use color object in args classes. So it's helpful tool. Sometimes we need to access the color form, and you can use like this. Also, you can call refresh method or something else in the first form. Yes, we have first only functionality. When you write a select statement, we are using first only to say SQL to I will select only one record. Also, we have first only 10, 100 or 1000. You can use this one. Unfortunately, we can say I just want to say select 15, one, etc. Right now, but you can use this functionality. I just want to tell you we have also first fast functionality, but it's not recommended to use in your select statement. First fast means the first record of the buffer will come fastly, the rest will come later. This is the default approach for forms, because form first record is important to create design, but in your code you don't need to use first fast. Okay. This is also a good framework if you need a timing period in your table, like valid from, valid to. It can be a date or time, etc. You can use valid time state table. It's easy to use. You can select valid time state field type. For example, in this section, it's selected UTC date time. It will automatically create two fields for you. This is valid from and valid to. You need to create a unique index for the for this table, and it must be contain these two fields. Also, a ID or more than one ID field. In this table, for example, worker and legal entity, also valid from and valid to. It's a unique index for this table. And when you open this table, you will see you can create new records, and it automatically fill the valid from or valid to fields. And when you select, you need to create valid time state keyword to select current record or certain dates record, etc. So it's very useful if you need functionality to create this kind of table. Don't try to write all the code by yourself. Use this framework. Okay. Also, we have change company and cross company functionality. We are working in a legal entity in our environment. Most of the time, we have more than one legal entity, and most of the time we need to do something from other legal entities while we are in some other legal entities. You can use change company to change this company, this code base company. When I use this one, automatically this code will run in USMF company. So everything will be in USMF. When it's finished, it will automatically roll back to my original company. Also, we have cross-company functionality. When we write a select statement, it will automatically create a data area ID range for our tables. If, of course, this table is a company-based table. But sometimes if I need to select more than one company, I can use cross-company keywords, and I am using a container to fill more than one company IDs, and with this I can select more than 2 or 3, how many I want company I can select. Also, if you need a country region restriction, you can use country region code in your properties. For example, most of the time this is used for localization, but of course sometimes if your customer has more than one country implementation, etc., sometimes you need to create a code for just one country. You can use this one. There are country region codes. For example, I say this will work TR and US only. Also, in your code, you can use CIS country region code is legal entity country region is Turkish, for example. You can use like this. So if you need a country region specific code, you can use the standard functionality. I take from this one to one of my friends' blog. This is also one of the most confused one. Reread, refresh, research, and execute query. I will not cover too detailedly, but if you make changes in your database, you use research, and if you want to point certain record again, you don't want to cursor to lose the focus, you can use research through. If you change design and your data, you can use execute query. With execute query, everything will be refreshed. So most of the time I am using research true, and if it's everything needs to be refreshed, I used execute query. So be careful about these and what is done. I see sometimes they are calling everything first research, then execute query, etc. The most of the time form performance issues was related to refreshing this refreshing mechanism. Lots of unnecessary refreshing makes your form slower. Be careful about this one too. Okay, this is one of the different topics. If you have a XDS policy in your environment, and sometimes you need to create a certain record with certain restrictions, but because of the XDS policy, the user can't create a record or can't see the created record. So if you need to disable certain disable the XDS policy, you can use XDS service set XDS state to 0, and when you finished your code, you can set to 1 to activate again. This was AX 2012 site. With Dynamics 365, we have unchecked keyword, and unchecked keyword supports XDS and table security permission. If you want to disable XDS or table security permission, you can use like this. It's a very helpful tool. If you have this kind of requirement, it's a very time-saving property. Okay, this is a good feature. I like this one. If you are familiar with TSQL, you have lots of different properties over there. One of them is having. Having is not supported in select statement, but it's supported from query framework. If you have this kind of requirement, for example, this one is creating a group by currency and having count rec ID less than 3. This kind of query you cannot write with select statement, but you can write with query. In your query, we have add having filter method. With this one, I am creating a count field, and with value, I am writing less than 3. And this query is the same with this TSQL statement. If you need, as I said, if you need to use having in your code base, you can use query framework. Okay, X++ and Dynamics 365 has a column store index and included column property. These are two different types. I will not go into details because it's a very big topic, but if you need analyzing index, big index for analyzing reporting, you are using column store index. Create a column store index is the best way to create this one. For example, this is the John account entry, one of the biggest table in X++. It has one column store index like this. Also, if you have a transaction table and it will be used in analyzing reporting, you can use a column store index for that table. Also, we have included column property in our normal index. This is a how can I say? This is not a filtered index, but it's a most of the time quantities, amounts, etc. If when I select, for example, certain main accounts, I want to sum quantities or max quantities, etc. If I have this kind of requirement, I select these kind of fields as a included column, and it will faster your queries. if you have further question about this one, we can talk in later, or you can look at the documentation. It's a very helpful tool for your performance issues. Also in X++, we can create union query. I see lots of questions about this one. There are lots of union views in our application. You need to create a query and select the query type in union. Then you can create a view with this union query, and you can have a union query-based view. So if you have a requirement needs to be union query, you can use with query framework. Also in views, we have computed columns. This is a standard approach for creating a new related field to your view. For example, in this one, we are creating two field multiplying two fields and creating a new field with this one. So you need to use these say a computed column class and methods. There are lots of different approach to create computed column, but it's best the best way is used simply when you create complicated computed column. It can be slower your view. So be careful using. But if you have this kind of requirements like multiplying two fields or sum two fields, etc., it's best way to use computed column. I am using this a lot because sometimes I need to create view reports. You know, we are creating lots of these, and when we create a view for report, it has some these kind of fields are required. So it's best way to create a computed column for that. Okay, this is also I like to use if you have a variable and if this variable contains a value, you need to add your select statement as a filter. But if this variable doesn't have any value, it's a null, you don't want to add in your query as a filter. In this section, when you write like this, it will automatically, if the cast account has any value, it will automatically filter the cast account with this one. If cast account is null or empty, it will not add any SQL statement. For this one, you need to write if statement. Of course, you can write if cast account is not empty, add a filter, else remove this filter. But think if this variable is more than 1, 3, or 4, then you need to create a combination. It's impossible. Of course, you can use query framework. It's best way to use this kind of requirement for query. But if it is a small job, you can use these kind of coding, and it will automatically create a dynamic filter for you. It's if the value is there, you can filter. If value is not there, the filter will not work. So you can use in your code base. Okay. Also, we have dictables. In old version, I was using this one very oftenly because I was doing lots of code reviews, etc. But in Dynamics 365, we have metadata search, so it's not that required anymore. But I just want to show the this one. We have a dictable, and with dictable, for example, I am just listing the castable fields like this. You can write lots of different codes for your code base or tables, etc. We have a dictable functionality. Okay. User connection and unit of work. This is also a good and useful tool. Let me explain like this. For example, when you write a code and if it is contain a transaction block, yeah, TTS begin and TTS commit, and then if there is an error, true error happened, it will automatically roll back, right? So everything will be deleted, so you don't create anything. But sometimes you need to create a log or send the information, something like that. Even if in transaction block something happened, I just don't want to roll back everything. I just want to insert a record or update something, etc. You can use user connection for this one. Also, unit of work is for this one. So you can create a new user connection, and if your code throws an error, you can create a log record with user connection and unit of work. It's a very helpful and useful tool. Also, unit of work can be used as a multi-record insertion, but it's a little bit detailed. So I will cover. You can look at the detailed examples in my blog or in Microsoft Learning. This one is also I like to share with you. In X++, we have lots of functions. One of them is week of year or week of year. The week of year is not a standard thing. There are standard ISO week of year, of course, but some countries using different approach for this one. So be aware what's your country or what's your customer's country using week number, because some especially ledger reports using week number, and it will sometimes you are using two different methods, and it will give you different week numbers. Then your report is not correct data. You cannot accept legally. So be aware your country's week number standard and used accordingly. You can use these two functions to find proper week number of your countries. So I think my time is finished, and these are my tips. I hope it was a helpful session. Thank you for listening, and I can answer if there is a questions.
Thank you so much, Fatih. I believe we have one question. You said initially that there were some tips and left out due to time constraints. Is there a chance we can get access to those missed out tips and tricks?
Of course, if this they can sorry. If you can reach me from my email or my social accounts. Let me share again. I can share you and talk to you these details.
Yeah, that would be great, Fatih. There is one more question from Kunal. Can you brief us about .skip data method?
Let me see the question again. I just want to see the. Yeah, it's you can. We are using this for some functionalities, standard functionalities. Again, Kunal, I can send you some jobs for this one. you can reach me, and I will share you some blog posts and some job examples with skip data methods.
Yeah, I think that would be great, Fatih. One-to-one direct connect will also help them in getting their clarifications cleared. I must say, Fatih, it was indeed a great session. You have just even refreshed my memories to the time when I used to struggle when writing X++ code and try to find these kind of tips and tricks while working on X++ framework. For sure, this will help our attendees in their programming world as well. And on a lighter note, I must say that this will not only help them in during the coding aspect of their life, but also to assist them in cracking some kind of interviews in future. So I still remember some of the questions were actually interview asked questions, wherein we should have those small informations in place. And thank you once again, Fatih, for your time and knowledge. It was a really great session.
It was my pleasure to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.